Oops. There we go. We're on.
This is Tana.
Happy birthday to my wonderful husband.
Happy birthday
my
to
best
me.
friend.
What are we doing on Facebook Live?
On your birthday.
On my birthday.
Right.
After we had dinner and we're going to spend the night together, I've spent the day being grateful. One, I've lived as long as I have. 66 today. Wow. That's crazy. And I've talked to all of my kids, not all of my grandkids. I'm still waiting. And had the most spectacular watermelon birthday cake.
Oh yeah, so we need to thank our assistant Kim made this wonderful, because he won't let anyone buy him cupcakes or like birthday cakes.
Really?
She made the most beautiful cake out of watermelon, blueberries, kiwi, strawberry. It was just beautiful. It was amazing. So we ate a bunch of the fruit, and then so that the rest of it didn't go bad, he came up with this incredible idea. In fact, I'm going to do it live. I want to do it live because it was so cool. He took the fruit and blended it in the blender and then poured it into popsicle containers and made popsicles out of it. It was so tasty. The watermelon made the best popsicles. It was incredible.
Because I want to be here until I'm 96, which means you have to make good decisions. And one good decision is to be grateful for all of the amazing people in my life, especially my wife. She is my #1 birthday present. And for you who take the time and watch, over this pandemic, I've been live over 70 times. That's sort of crazy. And Tana's been live with me a lot. And what we did at the end of last week, knowing that it was going to go live this weekend, is we got lots of questions. And so I'll take some, Tana will take some. And
so it's your birthday and you're giving them a gift.
Well, because you have been a gift to me. And goodness, I've written 40 books. Isn't that crazy? It means I'm old.
No, I think you've written more than that.
Well, but I'm going to sign
a new
2-book deal. I'm very excited about Happy, the neuroscience of feeling good, because that means all the research, all the time I got to spend on thinking about being happy. So I'm pretty excited about that. You make me happy.
You make me happy.
So question number 1, is it normal to have symptoms like seeing a black shadow and trembling? No, that's not normal.
And when? Like what? I would be curious when they're seeing that.
Well, it can be a sign of a seizure. It can be a sign of low blood sugar. It's a sign that something's not right. Now, if it happens once every 5 years, don't worry about it. If it's happening once a month and then 2 or 3 times a month, you should get evaluated. All right, you want to take 2?
Sure. How do you avoid inflammatory vegetable oils when eating out? That's a tough one, except that you can just ask for things to not be made with oil. So ask for steamed instead of sauteed vegetables. Most restaurants, just so you know, have to use cheap vegetable oils because of cost. Very few restaurants, unless they're finer restaurants, are using things like olive oil or higher quality oils. Most of them are using canola oil or something else like that. So you can actually ask them, what kind of oil do you use? 99% of the time they're going to say canola oil. You'll find some Italian restaurants or restaurants like that, nicer restaurants, fish restaurants, they're going to tell you olive oil. So you can just ask for it to be steamed instead of sauteed. That's the best thing you can do.
Or cooked in broth.
Yeah, well, they won't,
do that.
but restaurants won't often do that. So you're better off just asking for it to not have oil, or ask for sauces on the sides, things like that.
Well, and if you don't have it with oil, you've just cut your calories significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I have often talked about COVID-19, which is the extra 19
like
pounds.
Like the freshman 15, right?
People put on their bodies during this pandemic. And chronic stress takes your sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone, turns them into cortisol and adrenaline, which put fat on your body. And like 3 weeks ago, I noticed I was up a couple of pounds and I just felt bloated. And so I put a tape measure around my waist. And even though my weight wasn't up much, I'd like gained 2 inches around my belly. And I'm like, not going to happen. And so what I did, and what I'd recommend most of you do if you're in this weight gain thing, is I started counting my calories. One of the questions we have is about intermittent fasting.
So we are both fans of intermittent fasting. One thing I would say, so intermittent fasting, for those of you, most people know what it is. For those of you who don't, it's where you would fast, but you don't fast long term. You fast for 12 to 16 hours a day. You can fast up to 24 hours, but not long term, not more than a day at a time. So we tend to fast for like 12. I'll often fast for 16 hours.
Me too.
And I actually like to occasionally fast for 24 hours, but then have one meal a day, and I'll do that for a couple days in a row. And I feel so good when I do it. But one thing I will tell people is time your intermittent fasting. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to do intermittent fasting, if let's just say you are a police officer or you're an athlete and you're getting ready to perform, you're going to, you have to do something high intensity, or you're in the military, that's not the time to do intermittent fasting, right? So you want to actually plan it. Plan your intermittent fasting for times when you don't have to expend massive amounts of energy.
So for military, I was an Army officer.
So you don't have a lot of choice, probably.
Well, no, you absolutely have choice. And 90% of it is just drop dead boring. It's that maybe 1% or 2% that is incredibly frightening. So when you're on regular duty,
right,
you totally can do intermittent fasting, which means if you finish dinner at 6 o'clock at night, don't eat till 10 o'clock the next morning. That's not hard. That also gets to, how do I stop nighttime munching?
Let me finish one thing. One of the reasons you want to make sure that you are not doing intermittent fasting when you have to do something high intensity, whether it's an athletic, something athletic or something for work that's very high intensity, is because your blood sugar will drop way too low and you won't be able to perform and you won't be able to focus.
Right. So if you're going to be playing in the NBA Finals,
right,
hopefully the Lakers, that's just not the right time to do intermittent fasting. Right before the game.
Or my daughter's boyfriend, he's 18 and plays 4 hours of tennis. That is not, you don't want to do that because you won't be able to perform. There's no fuel in the tank.
All right. But anyways, I did intermittent fasting. I try to do it most of the time. And then I started counting my calories. That's what I do. I almost always eat clean and reasonably healthy. But I started weighing, measuring things, and dropped just about 5 pounds in under 3 weeks. And so I feel really good about that. You can do it. And people go, oh my God, count calories. I can't do that. It's max 3rd grade math. It's addition. So it's not hard. You just got to get your mindset around value spending. That's what I do. The popsicles I made, 50 calories max. So if I give myself 1,600 calories a day, I can have 2 of them and it's just not a problem.
Right. So someone said, so from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. is good. Yes, that would be intermittent fasting. Someone else is asking about what it costs to come to the clinics. Do you want to give them a number? Do you want to explain?
Go to amenclinics.com and talk to one of our care providers.
Because there's so many different options.
From a consultation all the way to one of our full evaluations.
And there's lots of ways to do it.
All right. How do you stay healthy when eating out?
So you don't need to order things off the menu the way they are presented. You can order individual items off the menu, or the way what our friend JJ Virgin says, order of the menu, not off the menu, right? So you can decide, like I said, ask for steamed veggies, not sauteed veggies. If they have, let's just say they've got chicken cacciatore, well, that means they've got chicken. without the cacciatore. so you just need to order things the way you want them. You can ask for, you know, baked chicken or whatever, just chicken plain without any sauce on it. So just ask for individual items if you're not sure. So that's a good way to do it. Side menus are a really easy way to do it. Get a nice salad and throw some fish or chicken on top of it if you're not vegan. If you are, then make sure you're just getting your protein in another way. So if you are vegan, I love raw food restaurants. I'm not vegan and I still love raw food restaurants. So for vegans and plant-based people, I don't like the processed foods that are associated with that way of eating, but I really do like that raw type of food is really healthy and really tasty.
Well, and vegetables are where all the medicine is. So the pharmacy, F-A-R-M, pharmacy.
So think of lots of veggies. So if you're going to eat out and you've got a plate.
And some other tips. Don't let them put the dressing on your salad. I was talking to my brother today. I'm very proud of him. He's down 14 pounds. He likes oil and vinegar. Vinegar on first. Whatever you want.
Very little oil.
And then just a little tiny bit of oil. You'll save yourself 100 or 200.
And avoid other types of dressings unless you know what's in them, because most of them are chemicals, right? So olive oil and vinegar, pretty safe option. So yeah, so order individual items and lots of veggies.
So children love sweets. What's the best alternative for sugar and chocolate?
So I don't have my cookbook here. So because of this, my last cookbook, the Brain Warriors Way cookbook, I ended up putting 20 desserts in there. 20 desserts, because people think you can't be healthy and eat dessert, and it's not true. You don't want to go crazy with it, but it's not true. I mean, I've got these recipes for muffins and cupcakes and cobbler and, dear Lord, nutty butter cups.
Nutty butter cups are amazing, but popsicles,
like we just talked about, like blending up fruit and putting them into a popsicle, stick, and they actually taste really good. And if you're looking for a sweetener, I would go easy with, so we like stevia and erythritol, but I would try to not give kids a lot of that. So especially the erythritol, I would go little amounts are fine. And tiny amounts of, if you're gonna bake with it, honey or maple syrup, but I mean tiny amounts. I mean like a couple tablespoons for a recipe, not cups like most recipes call for. Small amounts of those things are fine. But the less you give them as children, the less they're going to crave it as adults. That's the problem, is we sort of hijack our taste buds.
Let me give them a hint. So Dottie asked, where do you get a list of calorie counts? It's called Google. You can Google anything. And one of the things I learned is a pound of ribeye. I mean, nobody eats a pound. Well, no, a lot of people eat a pound. But a pound of ribeye is 1,375 calories. A pound of lobster or a pound of king crab is like 240 calories. So really, you can Google that, but I have a little scale. I mean, when I'm like serious about I'm gonna drop a few pounds, I weigh and measure things, at least until I get the idea this will cost me in calories this much, and you wanna be reasonably accurate.
And if you are out somewhere and obviously you don't have a scale, think of it this way. Your protein, shake hands with protein. Whoops, am I in here? Shake hands with protein. Palm of your hand. Think of the palm of your hand and the width of your hand. That's about the size of protein you want to be having. If you have much more than that, it's a lot of protein for your body to digest.
It's probably about 4 ounces.
It's about 3 to 4 ounces.
How big?
That's why it's perfect. 3 to 4 ounces.
And then another secret I do with my grandbabies is, they might want a Coke or something like that. And I'm like, no, we don't do that. But Sweet Leaf is a company I like, no financial interest, makes different flavors of stevia. Mm-hmm. My favorite is chocolate stevia. So I actually carry it with me in my briefcase and car. And when we go to a restaurant, what we get is sparkling water and put a dropper full of chocolate stevia in it. They love it.
They think it's soda.
They just like, Grandpa, can we have our drink? And it's not loading them up with sugar, which then gets them into trouble, which then will negatively impact their self-esteem and their parents' self-esteem, because who likes being angry at your child? All right. Can anxiety cause dizziness? All the time, yes. Natural ways to help with panic without medication: diaphragmatic breathing, hypnosis, meditation, GABA calming. If you go to brainmd.com, or one of our new favorites, Happy Saffron Spectacular, new supplement that helps with anxiety and depression, a lack of happiness. Can SSRIs cause long-term damage? Well, if you don't have the right brain, SSRIs are clearly a bad thing for people. If you have the right brain, SSRIs may save your life because it can decrease depression. I think in your new book, you actually
You
talk
might find
about
yourself in Costa Rica.
Tana has a new book coming in January called The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. It's a memoir. It's great. But she went through a period of depression.
And
when
SSRI was the wrong medication for me, and I didn't. This was a long time ago, and yeah, I'm pretty old. So it was a very long time ago. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing, and they put me on an SSRI, which was not right for my brain type. And I just was I was like dangerously impulsive. I took a dare, jumped on a plane to Costa Rica, just crazy stuff. So yeah, you have to be really careful.
So that could have caused long-term brain damage.
So I think what they're asking is chemically, can it cause long-term damage?
Well, but I'm like, could it be chemically, emotionally?
Right, because it can cause all kinds of problems. You can make a lot of mistakes, right?
Right, I mean, you could have had a baby when you didn't want to have a baby.
Well, fortunately, that did not happen, but...
So it depends on your type. You can go to brainhealthassessment.com for free and learn about your brain type and what supplements or medications tend to be helpful based on my experience. Someone says, "You look beautiful. Are the earrings from Costa Rica?"
No, the earrings are from my husband.
I was not the Costa Rica
You
guy.
were not there, no.
Next question. Can depression caused by alcohol dependence be cured without medication? Yes. Stop drinking is number one. I mean, when you stop poisoning yourself and then put your brain in a healing environment, it just makes so much sense. I have a new book coming out next March called Your Brain is Always Listening.
We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff together for our 2 books.
We are. And I actually have an addiction treatment program based on neuroscience. I stole some of the 12 steps, but most of those 12 steps have nothing to do with the brain. And, oh, by the way, your brain's involved in addiction. We talked about intermittent fasting. What can a caretaker do to help a depressed patient? Make the appointment and go with them. Because when you're depressed, you don't have the hope, you don't have the energy, you don't have the cognitive function to work. This is going to be a hard one. Help me with this. How do you get past infidelity when the person it was with is still in your life?
Oof.
That's hard. And we often talk about forgiveness, but there also has to be a level of trust. And if the person is still in your life, it's sort of chronically
the person it was with, meaning that the person... So I think what this person means is, like, let's say it was your husband was unfaithful, but they were unfaithful with someone who's still in your life. Like, you can't... It's not like you can just move away from it.
Right. It's like you're being re-traumatized.
Every time. I think that's what that means.
All the time. And so deep discussions,
EMDR.
Forgiveness, but then also a level of trust. It's like, how do you know that the person
and I think it's also important, that's really hard. It's really complicated. And I think it would require a lot of, you tell me, you're the psychiatrist, but relationships are complicated. So understanding what motivated the behavior. Were there problems in your relationship to start with? I mean, those are hard things to face, but they might help you let go.
When should we realize that moms are toxic and how to deal
Earlier
with
than later, hopefully.
it's hard. I mean, even when moms get a lot of help, sometimes because their role model and their modeling was so bad that they need to constantly be in therapy to really help them coach through those difficult situations.
And that's so difficult because if you're a young child, how do you deal? If you're a young child, sometimes you don't have a choice. It's not easy to get away from that person. And if you're an adult, sometimes you don't want to. I mean, that's really hard. Sometimes you don't want to disconnect from your mom, but you know they're not all that healthy. And that's tricky. Right?
It's tricky. How to deal with the suicide of someone close to you. It's so hard. And during the pandemic, there's been a lot more suicide. And what I often say is sometimes the illness wins. Cardiologists, of course, feel bad every time they lose a patient to heart disease, but they don't think of stop being cardiologists. A lot of psychiatrists, especially young psychiatrists, if they have someone kill themselves, they're like, oh, I just can't deal with that. But quite frankly, things like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, major depression, they can be lethal diseases. And so, one, no, you didn't kill them. They made that choice. It was based on a brain that wasn't working properly, and sometimes the illness wins. When I get new patients that are suicidal, I let them know right up front. It's just one of the meanest, most damaging things you can do. Because when people get depressed, it's like their brain gets in a tunnel, and the tunnel has no windows and no doors, and they don't see options. And they don't see how their behavior, how the suicide will impact other people. And so I tell them right away, you kill yourself, you've just increased the risk that your children might kill themselves 500%. And so just making that clear up front often helps them at least have more control over what they do. It's a very hard thing. No, doctors don't drop the client if they're truly suicidal. At least that's not my experience. I see the comment from Dawn, it's a sign that we need to work harder. Does anxiety or anxiety attacks ever go away? Absolutely. With the right treatment, anxiety disorders, most common psychiatric disorder in the world, and is highly treatable. And medication is definitely not my first choice. You'll like this one, or not like it, but you take this one. How to bounce back after a cheat day.
So first of all, for anybody watching, if you heard a burp, that was not us, it was the dog. It was actually the dog came over and burped. That was not very polite. But anyways, answering your question about cheat days. Hopefully your cheat day was not planned. Hopefully it was an accidental cheat day, because we're not fans of cheat days. And for the exact reason that you just wrote, how do you bounce back? Because every time you have a cheat day, you set yourself up, and all the work you did to get over your food addiction, to like break that cycle of like craving, takes about 3 or 4 days to get over. As soon as you get over it, all of a sudden you're back to craving again because you did a cheat day. So if you did a cheat, let's just say you stopped doing cheat days. We like the 95-5 rule, or even the 90-10 rule, but we prefer the 95-5 rule. That means that 90 to 95% of the time you're eating really well, and it means no one does it perfectly. But if 5% or 10% of the time you have something, you're not going to plan a whole day and go do it because that's going to really set you up for problems. But let's just say you know that someone in your family makes something really special that you love, like your mom used to make pizza. And so on Christmas, and you know you want to have a piece of it because this person has done this forever and you want to do that. Well, plan that one thing, and it doesn't mean you need to go pig out on it. So I have a 3-bite rule on something that I like. If there's something I know I want to have, but it's not, I don't do it all the time. It's a special thing once in a while. It's not a big deal. I don't need to feel guilty. Have 3 bites. Why is that different? Why do I need to go eat a massive trough of it? It's not going to help. So either one meal, make it 1 meal, or even less than 1 meal. That would be better for you. But don't plan cheat days. They're not going to set you up for success.
Carolyn Trace. I love Carolyn Trace. Carol and I have known each other, goodness, nearly 30 years. She's awesome.
That's awesome.
We met at Pacific England University, where she was the counselor there, and she understood our work, and we helped so many people together. So blessings to you, my friend. What are non-medication treatments for depression? So think, exercise. But one of my favorite, hand me the bright light, is bright light therapy. So having a light therapy box in the morning. BrainMD actually makes this bright light therapy lamp. See? Turn on. 20 to 30 minutes every morning. Don't look at it. Have it in your peripheral vision. It's been shown, at least for winter depressions, to help better than Prozac, but also helps with energy, motivation, and sleep. Very important. Happy Saffron. I'm just a huge fan of Happy Saffron. Saffron, curcumin, zinc have been found to be helpful to support mood. And then learning not to believe every stupid thing you think. One of the questions was, how do you stop negative thoughts? And write them down and question them. It'd be so helpful. So, do you have any final thoughts before we go have the rest of the party?
Did you just say that?
Any final thoughts?
No. No, I'm just happy that you are my partner.
And she's like, it's your birthday. You really want to do a live chat. And I'm feeling grateful that, one, I made it this far. 2, I have the love of my life. And I got to see my mom today. That was very special. And my brother and a couple of my sisters. And talk to my kids. So I'm just feeling grateful. And I'm feeling grateful I get to do what I do that might help you. So have a great evening.
We are grateful for you. Thank you. Bye-bye.